Hello, everyone. As you did mention, I am Camcom. I am joining you from Mid League actually for tonight, and I am here to be your announcer. And I will be on the analysis desk as well, joined by Necrox later for tonight. And for our community team, as you mentioned, you all voted for this team. So for your top laner from Classic Esports, you will have Bleeding Wolves. From Redacted, your jungler will be Olympian, Lotus White, Saint Alucard, Hawthorne Esports, Counters, and Lotus White Fire Streaks for your bot lane there. So why do you think these players were chosen? What have they made so strongly in this season to be able to be voted for the community vote here?
Without giving away too much here, I gotta say that a lot of what the community actually voted lines up very much with what we kind of created ourselves. I think there's a few picks in here that were among our very contested and almost made it as well. At least one of those.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give away too much here, but definitely Bleeding Wolf. I think I could see every one of these players definitely contesting for one of these spots. It's no surprise to see. There's not a single name on this list that we're seeing right now that I'm like, oh my god, they shouldn't have made it on here. So
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think community kind of hit it on the head here. This is a solid list, and we're gonna probably take it over to our first All Pro team, as it's a little bit different than this list.
Yes, so the casters here in Light League chose the first, the second, and the third best players as they saw from all 10 teams here. And for the third best team here, we have very similar, as you were saying, Classic Esports, Bleeding Wolf still there in the top lane. Hawthorne Esports, Arth in the jungle, a little bit different there. CD Clockwork, Booty, Bang, and Billy in the mid lane. Hawthorne Esports counters, and Solar Biscuit in that support role from Redacted.
Thank you, Camcom. Yeah, we'll just take it from top to bottom here. We're going to start off with our third team All-Pro Bleeding Wolves in the top lane. We really haven't gotten to see much of Classic Esports. In fact, unfortunately, tonight's the first time we're going to actually see them on stream. But if you take a look at Bleeding Wolves across the board matchup, pound for pound, against these other top laners, he has been taking it to them, including against some of the very top, some of the very best. You got Hawthorne Esports' Godzilla in the top lane, who Bleeding Wolves handled very well. They 2-1 in that game, and a lot of that was off the back of Bleeding Wolves. And he's been one of the two carries for this Classic Esports squad that is fighting for that playoff roster, or for that playoff spot. Check him out tonight. He is going to be someone I want to keep my eyes on.
I can say, at least for Arth, I think the jungle was probably our most hotly contested All-Pro team's position. We went back and forth on debates on this one for a while. Arth especially did a phenomenal job. He's actually second across all teams in KDA, which is fairly impressive for, for any jungler that's, when you're on Hawthorne, you kind of focus towards that bottom lane. Also, something he has to do is always looking to play around counters, which we'll get to in a little bit. But he's always getting that bottom lane. He knows his win conditions. He knows exactly what he has to do in order to come out on top. Booty Bang and Billy. I think this one was one of the ones that we were also pretty contested on. The third position here in the All-Pro team.
Yeah.
Booty Bang and Billy, I feel like I would say this name every single time when we were casting, at least in play and during fights, and it was always just Booty Bang and Billy, at least like picking up a double kill or finding like a triple. In team fights, I think Booty Bang and Billy really shines, and for that reason, I think deserves this position on the third All-Pro team.
Yeah, he definitely shined. Now, I think this third team 80 carry might come as a surprise to some, and I think that might be my fault. I had a little spat with Zephyr about counters and his 80 carry ways. I'll give it to him. He is one of the only players where the entire team needs to play around him for Hawthorne to find success. In fact, that they completely dedicate comps just to surround this guy with resources. He does have his moments of over-aggression, but I mean, he is highest damage per minute in the league for a reason. His gold per minute is the highest. He's second in gold difference. This guy just tops the charts. And of course, so bloodthirsty. 9.3 kills per game is the highest in the league. Counters coming in as our all-pro third team 80 carry here. In the support role, we have Solar Biscuit from Redacted. And this guy is just steady as it comes. This guy has high vision score per minute coming in third. He's top 4 in least deaths per game. He's top 3 in assists per game. All these things that you find in quality supports. His KDA is always high. He's making sure that his team is surrounded with Good vision, good CC, good ward play. All of this is helping out Redacted, and they find themselves in the top 4 right now. So it's definitely off the back of Solar Biscuit as part of that reason why Redacted have done so well.
Definitely a very strong team 3. And now we get to move on to team 2. So your second highest players in each role here. Gonna start from top to bottom once again. Lotus White will be Common Taco. From Cape Dogs Unleashed in the jungle, you have Pallycraft. And then from Divine Ascension Sapphire in the mid lane there, you will have Belby. And then for your bot lane, Classic Esports will be 3S Mark. And from CB Clockwork, it will be Dory K.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty easy to start off the top. You know, I think it's no surprise to anyone to see members of Lotus White making any all-pro team at all. Common Taco especially was a very strong, I think, a very strong weak side player, but it's also to say that every player in the entire league essentially plays a weak side top, and you see most teams kind of playing around mid or bot. Common Taco is just one of those steady rocks, you know, never really falling too far behind, takes losing matchups and somehow turns them around and be winning matchups up in the top lane when he gets counterpicked. So absolutely a strong player there. Happy to see him on this second all-pro team.
This jungler here from Cape Dogs might be a surprise to some. In fact, I had him as my #1 jungler. So, I mean, Pallycraft, this guy, he's top 10 in our new excellency rating. Check that out. Crisp and I worked really, really hard on that to make sure it kind of reflects better how these players are playing for their teams. His gold per, or his damage per gold allocated is really, really high. He's top 5 in kill participation. He's really making sure that he's managing these Cape Dogs and maneuvering around the roster, around the map, and finding some success. He had one of the best second halves, even kind of second 2/3 for Light League. This guy on Cape Dogs, they were doing really, really poorly in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and it was off the back of Pallycraft that they were able to turn their season around, and if they find themselves in playoff contention now. In the mid lane, you got Belby, and I think in a lot of leagues, this guy would be #1. Unfortunately, his team was a little bit rough. They didn't find themselves in playoff contention, but they did have a few wins just because of Belby alone. This guy is definitely a solo carry powerhouse, and he was able to show it throughout the season.
And moving on to the bottom side of the map, we got 3's Mark coming in here for ADC. This was kind of a newer one. We initially, at least for me, I wasn't considering 3's Mark. And then I started looking back at some of the games that, some of the match histories and some of the replays we had on 3's Mark, and being the newer caster to the league. And I was completely blown away. Just completely dominant, having some super dominant performances. We didn't have a lot of data on 3's Mark because I think it's a player that did come in later in the league, but just what they've shown, what they've managed to turn around here for Classic Esports, I think it's been a phenomenal performance, and I think he absolutely deserves his spot. Dory K, as we move on down the list here to support, this was also new information to me, but I didn't know that Dory K was the captain of this team, and you know, just being a shot caller in general lends you to be it's just, you know, mental RAM. It's just something else you have to worry about in the game. So props to Dory K for leading this team. Also did a great job, actually second highest CC score among supports in the league. You know, always making sure they're locking down the targets they need to do. So props here to Dory K. Wanted to give him a shout out, team 2.
Pretty great. And now for our final team, our first highest team in the league. Your team 1 will be Redacted, coming down from the top lane for Mind Blower. From CB Clockwork will be Anderson Cooper, and then Lotus White, mid ADC and support, St. Alucard, Necrox, and Fire Streaks.
Yeah, I mean, this top lane for Light League was so contested between Bleeding Wolves, Common Taco, Mind Blower. There's even a few top laners who just missed the cut. But given context, now Mind Blower, he's not topping the charts in all of the stats that you see in the stats page. But given context, this guy is making sure that Redacted have a chance every single game, whether it's on carries or on tanks. He's winning the matchups head to head. A lot of times, Redacted, I think, whenever they find themselves losing, you'll see Mind Blower kind of give up a lot of those stats, but he's making plays in the bot lane. He's teleporting there, turning the numbers around. He did so much for Redacted to make sure that they're a top team. We had to give him the #1 spot here.
Coming into the jungle here, I only ever knew CB Clockwork as a successful team because I joined the lead late again. But apparently, Anderson Cooper was the jungler that came in, was the reason that CB Clockwork looks good. completely turning around a team. We thought that on top of having some insane stats amongst the league itself, we just decided that Anderson Cooper was the jungler that really deserved the spot for making a team just look insanely good. Moving on to mid, I think that this one is no surprise to anyone. St. Alucard taking that mid lane spot. This man can play anything. He plays it extremely well, topping stats and just about anything here, and he is the rock there for Lotus White to play around. Always being just so strong in the mid lane, being a presence, and forcing other enemy teams to respond to him and what he does.
And this bot lane, man, I'm just going to talk to them as a pairing because they work so well together. And I think that part of the reason why they both find themselves on this team is because of the synergy that they have. Dory K made his case as a potential top support, but we had to give it over to Fire Streaks, the vision control, the excellency rating, all of this being the main engage typically for Lotus White, but also being able to pick up those enchanters and protect one of their big carries alongside Alucard Necrox. He's shown a wide champion pool. He's shown extremely safe play. Although they don't always dominate lane in team fights, this bot lane gets it done. They know how to peel. They know how to make sure that they maneuver through those team fight play. And I mean, there's a reason why I think they're 23-4 right now. You see 3 of them on the first team right here, Necrox and Fire Streaks. That bot lane doing really, really well in Night League.
Absolutely, it's such a strong bot lane. It definitely makes sense to be such highly rated there. So I do believe we're going to be throwing it to a short break here, as we will be going into analysis desk for our first game of our, or I guess you want to say our last game before playoffs, which will be between CB Clockwork and Classic Esports, currently sitting 5th and 7th. So like you're saying, definitely a strong contest for who will be making that final push to playoffs. So stay tuned. We will be back very shortly with the analysis desk.